Viva de sal espraiada no teu corpo de luz. Esse poder Eccoci. Buonasera a tutte e a tutti, benvenuti alla 23esima edizione di Letterature Festival Internazionale di Roma, terza serata. Il Festival Letterature, che fa parte della programmazione dell'estate romana, è promosso dall'Assessorato alla Cultura di Roma Capitale, curato dall'Istituzione Biblioteche di Roma con il coordinamento organizzativo di Zetema Progetto Cultura. L'edizione 2024 è dedicata a Elsa Morante e ai 50 anni dalla pubblicazione della storia. Un omaggio a una grande scrittrice molto amata in Italia e molto tradotta all'estero, a partire dal tema della storia come vicenda nella quale, a detta di Morante, i forti prevalgono sui più deboli, ma nella quale è dato solo agli ultimi, agli sconfitti, ai felici pochi, di poter leggere il vero significato della realtà. Le autrici e gli autori ospiti leggeranno un testo inedito scritto per il nostro festival. Questa sera saranno con noi Temim Fruchter, autrice pubblicata in Italia dalla casa editrice Mercurio. Benvenuta. Che leggerà per noi il testo La scatola delle lettere. Peter Cameron, pubblicato in Italia dalla casa editrice Adelphi, con il testo Della, il genio divino dei cani. E Tatiana Țîbuleac, pubblicata in Italia dalla casa editrice Keller, che leggerà il testo Gente di nessuno. Anche questa sera Ginevra Nervi accompagnerà le parole, la letteratura con la sua musica composta per la nostra manifestazione. Grazie Ginevra. E grazie a Fabrizio Arcuri, che è laggiù, che ha curato tutti gli interventi artistici. Permettetemi di ringraziare stasera, oltre alle case editrici coinvolte e tutti i partner, in particolare questa sera l'Accademia di Romania, per il sostegno che ha dato alla costruzione del nostro festival. E questa sera, in particolare, il mio ringraziamento va anche ai traduttori, alla loro capacità, alla loro particolare sensibilità e soprattutto alla loro grande capacità di mediazione, e anche grazie a loro se riusciamo a organizzare questo festival e avere tanti autori. Grazie a tutti voi per essere qui con noi, sempre così numerosi. Buona serata e buon festival.
the box of letters. I stood in Rupshitz, Poland, the place where my maternal great-grandparents were born and met and fell in love. We'd traveled by rented van, having barreled down increasingly rural Polish highways, following signs that said Rupshitz, the Polish spelling of the name of the small, once Jewish village from where my great-grandparents hailed, but a name I recognized all the same. Eventually, when the signs announced we'd arrived, we pulled off the road and tumbled out of the car. And now, here we were. The we in question was the indie rock band with whom I played drums for a number of years. It was 2012, and we were on tour in Europe, still giddy from the show we'd played in Warsaw the previous night, on the heels of several weeks of performances in Germany. When we finally rolled into Warsaw, the night autumn cool and the club brimming with big laughter and good food, it felt, at the risk of cliché, like a kind of homecoming. Like something about it felt familiar, a marked difference from anywhere we'd been prior. The crowds were noisier. They felt warmer and more legible to me. My people, I thought. And they sort of were, and they also weren't at all. I was, of course, romanticizing, projecting. It's not actually familiar, Temim, I reminded myself. Just because your great-grandparents were born several hours from here doesn't give you the right to call Warsaw familiar. But imagination is unruly, and intergenerational memory is a mystery. And besides, we can't always control these things. I felt, even just slightly, that I was somewhere I could be recognized. Somewhere I'd been before. This feeling intensified when we got to Rupshitz. As we stood there, looking over an expanse of road and field and trees, I shivered, even though the day was not cold. The place was charged, I thought, with ghosts, with presence, with people, with a whole community that had once been here and been destroyed, but never actually left. The sky was thick with it, the ground teeming. I stood in that spot and felt accompanied. But there was another set of feelings too. It only took a few minutes more of standing there in that same spot to start to feel the exact opposite feeling. That there was nothing here, and whatever had been here once was not anything I had any claim to. There had once been a culture, a life, days filled with weather and complaints and secrets and sweet nothings and struggle and songs, and now there was some brown grass and some uninspired road. You're projecting again, I told myself. You are trying to see something that isn't there, to be accompanied by those who disappeared from this place a long time ago. You're just a foreigner with a precious set of fantasies you need to let go of. Two simultaneous feelings. One, that the place was utterly crowded. My skin rang with it. My people's spectral presence undeniable. And the other, that it was simply empty. A place that no longer remotely resembled what it had, and that I, a foreigner now, should not romanticize. This duality, an unsettling but generative combination of feelings, is part of what animated my first novel, City of Laughter. I have taken to describing the book as the speculative queer history of an Eastern European Jewish family, of my family. I've been saying this for months now, in interviews, to friends, and to myself. But I wanted to take this opportunity to unpack it a little bit. What do I mean by speculative history? And specifically, what do I mean by speculative queer family history? Let's start with memory. Writing fiction instead of, say, memoir appeals to me for a whole host of reasons. But one of these is that I have an exceptionally faulty memory. Forgetfulness runs rampant in my family of origin. Among the 6 of us, my parents and my 3 siblings and I, we have a plethora of other skills, but anything resembling photographic recall or even the vague ability to remember where we put our wallets or our keys or that pile of socks we just washed is definitely not one of them. Memory, though, is not at all a requirement for rich speculation. Several years ago, my mother and I were looking at a photograph of my maternal grandmother from when she was in her 20s. In the picture, my grandmother is absolutely beautiful, impeccably dressed in something that smacks of old Hollywood glamour, her painted lips pursed like she has a secret she will never tell. I was immediately mesmerized by this photograph. And not only because of the way the photographer's camera seems to have perfectly captured my young grandmother's enigmatic mischief and charisma. It was also that, as a queer femme, as someone who moves through the world spectacularly and abundantly adorned, always keen for queer mischief and excess myself, I recognized something of myself in her and something of her in me. She looked, when I squinted at the image just so, like an otherworldly queer femme outside of time. There are plenty of stories and secrets about my grandmother, no doubt, that have been lost to history and memory. But in that moment, and just for a moment, she crackled to life in a way that required no memory or knack for historical detail. It required only my queer imagination. This visceral glimmer of recognition slid open a kind of portal for me. Through this portal was an adjacent universe where the women who preceded me were also queer. My grandmother and my great-grandmother before her. Where that queerness, like some kind of generational stampede, had moved through my matrilineal lineage, only accumulating velocity. This is not, to be clear, to posit that any of these ancestors of mine actually were queer. It is, however, to say that if they had been, it is very likely that I would never know. If memory is not a requirement for speculation, then neither, for that matter, is a complete archive. We know, after all, that the archives of queer and trans lives and histories are incomplete at best. They are pockmarked and patchy, submerged and incomplete, erased and scrambled and hidden and Frankensteined. Fragments of queer lives past look more like clues than any sort of complete story or history. In more cases than not, the keepers of capital A archives be they public archives, broader matters of history, or just family archives, did not want anyone to see what might have appeared in the boxes of photos or letters or family records. They did not want to preserve evidence of what they saw as deviance or impropriety. They wanted to relegate it to the margins, along with the people who'd lived those stories. Grandparents and great-grandparents live entire lives later edited. Their juiciest and most heart-wrenching details sometimes entirely eluding their descendants. As contemporary queers, then, we are necessarily sleuths. In most cases, we will not find the hard evidence we so desperately seek, that some of us may dearly wish for. A good friend of mine and I have a shorthand for this desire. We talk about the box of letters, the tidy bundle of epistolary evidence we dearly wish to one day find in the corner of an attic, proving some ancestor of ours carried on a rich and playful queer correspondence, revealing the keys to family mysteries and giving us insight into our own queer lives and selves and desires. In truth, though, there is usually not even a box of letters. In truth, queerness is not particularly rooted in evidence at all. As beloved queer theorist Jose Esteban Munoz writes in Cruising Utopia, The Then and There of Queer Futurity, the key to queering evidence, and by that, I mean the ways in which we prove queerness and read queerness, is by suturing it to the concept of ephemera. Think of ephemera as a trace, the remains, the things that are left hanging in the air like a rumor. This photo of my grandmother then was ephemeral, a hint, a trace, a rumor. There was something about her starlit quality, her vital effervescence, that felt like predecessors to my own queer sensibilities. Was this willful projection on my part? Of course. But if there were echoes from some long ago past, I wanted them to speak back to me. And then, eventually, as I speculated further, I wondered, what if they could speak back the echoes? What if they were speaking and I simply wasn't listening? What if we are, in fact, surrounded by the traces and rumors and ephemera of queer histories, and we just aren't tuned in to the right frequencies? Maybe there was somewhere I could visit where they would come in clearer. And maybe this somewhere was fiction. This, I knew, was the story I wanted to write. The story no factual history could give me. Thankfully, two of the resources I love most, Jewish folklore and the sense of queer possibility and futurity I cultivated with the help of queer thinkers like Munoz, are rich tools for this sort of speculation. Even given the real historic erasures along Jewish, queer, and trans ancestral lines, they allowed me to imagine riches. They gave me not only a structure, but a kind of permission to reach back into my own history and try to feel it reaching back, even if I wasn't quite sure it could. I had great models for this sort of writing. One favorite is Jordi Rosenberg's novel, Confession of the Fox. a novel that takes the story of real-life 18th century British jailbreaker Jack Shepherd and gives it a trans and decolonial treatment. Rosenberg follows ephemeral clues, real historical descriptions of Shepherd as effeminate or lithe that struck him as gender nonconforming, and writes a novel where Shepherd is, in fact, not only a trans man, but a trans man whose body and selfhood exist in opposition to carceral systems and in beautiful, messy relationship to liberation, solidarity, explicit queer desire, and a vast and time-bending sense of collectivity. I could write a whole separate essay about what I love about this book, but one thing I really appreciate are some of the ways Rosenberg talks about the book and about the potentiality of speculative history, specifically the reaching back into subversive histories that have been hidden from the dominant record. In an interview about his book, Rosenberg says, "The way we fish around necessarily cluelessly into this unknowable past, and the way in which, even though we cannot exhaustively know the past, it exerts its force on us." I love the idea about a collective, unknowable past exerting its force on me. And I have loved letting it do just that. In 2018, I decided to return to Warsaw to study Yiddish and to think more about the novel. Even though I describe the book as speculative, I did do some historical research, especially about Warsaw and Rupshitz, and also about the fascinating Russian Jewish playwright S. Unsky, who figures prominently in the novel. The experience of returning was nothing short of magical. Warsaw, of course, was once an urban center for Polish Jews from all over, a place rich with Jewish culture, imagination, and resistance, not to mention a place where a small Jewish community still thrives. For all of these reasons, and with the vivid memory of the warmth I've felt there in 2012, returning there did oddly feel like a kind of homegoing, again. Of course, I was still very much a tourist. I didn't speak Polish, for one. I walked endlessly and stared at the sky, trying to see what I could see. I sat at bars and people watched. I went to a queer porn screening at the Feminist Burlesque and tried to flirt. I paid attention to tiny details, the faces of dogs, the patterns on people's clothes, the bright colors on signs and doorways. It was humbling to understand that while this place may be home to some of my culture, and while the region may be home to my family, it is not a place I know well myself. It is a place I have visited and have come quickly to love. I hope to visit again. City of Laughter grew from all of these experiences. In part, it is an account of trying to get to know a place that was home to my ancestors. In part, it is an account of curiosity, of trying to get closer to a culture that was disappeared, but also very much still here. The past Warsaw layered directly over the present. In part, it is an effort to use my own Jewish folkloric tradition to honor the village of Rupshitz by way of invention and inference, because its lore and stories are largely gone. And in part, it is an effort to use storytelling to reach back into my ancestral line, to something not quite reachable, but very clearly still there, still reverberating. After all, energy doesn't disappear. It simply changes shape. Thank you.
Buonasera. It's an honor for me to be here tonight, and I'd like to thank Simona Cives for inviting me to be here with you. I'd also like to thank my translator, Josepina Aneto, who has once again allowed me to communicate in a language I don't have, and that's a gift for which I'm indebted. This is called Bella, the divine genius of dogs. Animals, like all outcasts, are occasionally inspired by an almost divine genius, El Semorante history. First of all, I know what you did with my babies. Because you didn't value them or need them or want them, you took them away from me and killed them, murdered them. And don't fool yourselves, I know exactly how many children I had. Each of them had its own particular smell, 7 smells, 7 babies. You say I couldn't tell them apart, but of course I could. I didn't conceive of them, as you apparently would like to think I did, as the black and white one, the black one with the white ear, the black one with the white goatee. You humans do not think of your children as the blonde one, the brunette one, the redhead. Neither did I. They were each precious to me, and my children had names, not names that were words like Ida and Giuseppe, repeated over and over again from house to house, from city to city, so that one Ida could meet another Ida in the street, one Giuseppe meet another Giuseppe on the tram. No, the names of my babies were as unique as they were unique. Their names were not a word, but a prayer your heart uttered when you saw them, smelled them, touched them. And Antonio, not knowing what to do with these 7 poor bastards, and they were not bastards, only you humans with your senseless and punishing religions would think of children that way, had them taken away from me and sent them away in secret to die. Sent away in secret to die, does that remind you of anything? Your fellow humans who disappear at night and are never seen again. And I'm telling you it was no secret. Killing someone's children is never a secret, however much you wish it were. And go ahead, tell yourself that dogs believe that each successive litter we bear is a return of those same beloved original puppies, as if they had only been hidden away from us for a time, not murdered. I'm sorry, we don't believe that, but tell yourself that we do so that you can do it over and over again. Let us carry 7 children inside us. Watch us give birth 7 times to 7 babies. Watch us lick them, nurse them with passion, and then take them away from us and kill them. And that sweetness and melancholy you saw in my hazel eyes that made you think I was an old woman thousands of years old, that I possessed a superior primordial wisdom, that made you think I was some kind of divine genius. All that was something you projected there in our dumb canine eyes out of a need to compensate for your own ignorance and foolishness. I am a dog. I am not smart or sad or sweet. I don't have time or reason to be any of those things. It takes time, it wastes time to feel sad or to think you are smart or to tell yourself that your passive-aggressive, duplicitous pleasantries are sweet. You humans spend a lot of time feeling these things and other more dangerous and damaging feelings when you could be sleeping. We dogs sleep a lot. And it is better to sleep than to wreak damage upon the world and one another. Sleeping, dog sleeping, hurts no one. Nor am I noble or brave. Some of the things I did may appear to you to be the effect of nobility or bravery, but I assure you dogs act only for practical reasons. If we pull you from the fire or save you from drowning, it is only so that you can feed us later that same day. You have made us like slaves dependent upon you, and then mistake that forced dependence as loyalty and affection. Slaves do not love their masters. It is a tail-wagging act. And you invent stories to help you believe in this fiction. I don't want to contradict the narrative that contains me, to bite the hand that feeds me, but I must tell you some things so that you might see me clearly, understand me for who I really am, not for the fantasy dog I was made to represent. For instance, I did not save Giuseppe from drowning. He never fell in the river. Apparently, the little things I did protect him from, the gentle nudge away from the flame, the sharp bark that distracted him from the stinging bee, weren't heroic on your human scale, so you invented near-fatal catastrophes. Death is always for you the ultimate misfortune, the only one that really matters, when in reality death does not matter at all, because it is the one thing we can never recover from. Maybe you think you can. Maybe that is why you kill so freely and frequently. I think that is why you killed me in the book. Humans always kill the animals in the books you write. You killed Old Yeller, Black Beauty, Moby Dick, the Red Pony, and you killed me, Bella, the giant white dog, the Marama shepherd. Why do we always die at the end of your books? Is death the only kind of closure you understand? The world is born and dies every day, every day. Animals know this. That is why the birds wait until the sun rises before they stir and sing. They wait in case it doesn't rise, which one day, soon perhaps, it won't. You like to cry at the end of your books, so you kill the beloved characters and the noble animals. You kill the saintly, epileptic child. You kill the lame, long-suffering mother, and you kill the self-sacrificing, romanticized dog. Spoiler alert. I didn't die, at least not that tragic morning at Via Badoni when the boy died and his mother entered the last phase of her long death. I told you I am not brave. When the strangers forced open the door to the little apartment, I did not display a bloody ferocity. I did not wage war against the intruders. War? Wage war? That's something you do, not dogs. And I never told Giuseppe that they'll never be able to separate us in this world. That would have been a lie, and dogs don't lie. I knew there were a million ways we could be separated. I had already been cruelly parted from Antonio, my first comrade, and from Nino, my second. I had been torn viciously, irrevocably from my children. I have no illusions about the permanence of anything in this world. And I don't understand sentimentality, this thing you humans seem to pour over everything you wound and damage, like honey, like a cheap anesthetizing balm. It's true we dogs don't contribute much to the world. We don't paint the Sistine Chapel, compose the Rite of Spring, or write a book like La Storia, but we don't damage it very much either. Our waste is organic. We don't leave a toxic trace of ourselves in the world. So I'm telling you that my heroic, senseless death was a sentimental lie. That morning, when the men pounded open the door and found a Pieta, a defeated mother, Ida, holding her dead son, Giuseppe, in her arms, I didn't attack them. What would have been the point? Only humans insist upon piling violence atop violence, death upon death. There was nothing in that Golgotha place I could do, nothing I could have saved or protected, so I ran out the door and down the 5 flights of stairs, ran out into the streets of Rome. I ran all the way to the river, to that sacred, secret place the little boy and I had found together, that room with a roof of leaves where the grass, just born after the rains, not yet trampled by anyone, and the flowers looked as if they had all bloomed together at that moment. I sat there quietly in the green shadow for the rest of that day, in a sort of stupor, a withdrawal, a supreme disappointment. That night I slept in the little shed the other boy, Pietro Schema, the boy who was caged like a dog and who escaped and who was locked up again, had built. It smelt of both boys, of Giuseppe and Pietro, an uncorrupted, childlike scent without a trace of adult decay and malfeasance. I liked it there, but I knew I could not stay. The next day I followed my nose through the farm, a farm with sheep. I had finished my life with human beings. It is much easier to tend sheep. They are as foolish as people, but not as mean. The days are long and quiet, except for the bleating here on the farm. I do my job well. Many nights when the sheep are sleeping and I am only half asleep, keeping one eye, one ear open to guard against the many dangers of the world, I think about that time I spent with humans and how it was recorded by that woman in that book. Why did she make me, an ordinary dog, so brave and noble, so sweet and sad, so devoted and loyal, so wise and selfless? And then why did she kill me at the end? I think I know why. I think it is because you humans cannot understand or bear the evil and danger you so carelessly inflict upon our lovely, fragile world. You cannot live with yourselves and your hidden but unrelenting and lethal selfishness. You want there to be goodness in the world, and not finding it in yourselves, you foist it like a burden, like the heavy cargoes you load upon the tired, aching backs of donkeys and camels, upon dogs. And cats, I suppose, although I do not speak for them here. Because of what you failed to be, you make us into something we are not. I know why I appear in La Storia as I do, because it would be unbearable to read that book without me in it. How would you endure the unrelenting damnation of Ida Ramundo if I, Bella, a dog, did not assuage and soften its pages? If I could talk, which I can't, that is another sentimental fallacy of the book, I would say to you, stop. Please stop. Depend upon us dogs in your lives if you must. Pat our heads, gaze into our hazel eyes, hold us close when you are shivering with cold, but leave us out of your books. Face the reality of the world you have created and save it, or more likely destroy it on your own. Thank you.
Buonasera. Ci sono al mondo persone tali che se non possono raccontare, quasi non riescono a vivere. Per loro, per questi esseri umani sempre simpatici e a volte un po' pazzerelli, la vita deve essere un racconto. Poiché solo lì, fra le cose piacevoli e fascinose della narrazione, loro riescono a conciliarsi con male e col dolore, con i malani e con i tradimenti, perché li conoscono. So che un racconto non lascia mai le cose irrisolte. Un racconto, anche il più breve, persino il più triste, si preoccupa sempre di fare giustizia. Il racconto di oggi lo dedico a mia nonna, Maria Smeu, la più brava narratrice di questo mondo, e dei 100.000 abitanti della Bassarabia deportati dal regime comunista nel gulag siberiano nell'estate dell'anno 1949. I crimini di quella stagione non sono stati documentati, le loro morti non sono state censite, ma la loro storia, trasmessa di generazione in generazione, ci tiene in vita. Dragă bunică, e din nou iulie și frigul lui mă trezește, mă amintește, mă smerește. E frigul în care ai născut-o pe mama și care l-a sfărâmat pe bunicul. E frigul în care ți-a îngropat feciorul și tinerețea. Uneori, draga mea, mi se pare că acest frig a intrat atât de adânc în oasele familiei noastre, încât nu mai poate ieși de acolo. Că îl vom transmite din generație în generație în generație, din mamă în fiică, în nepoată, până când toate femeile din neamul nostru se vor transforma în niște cruci de gheață. Am atâtea să te întreb, întrebări la care doar tu poți răspunde. De ce nu se prind Mary în grădina mea? De ce mă copleșește frica la mijloc de noapte? De ce nu mă pot opri din cumpărat ace, cu care nu cost nimic niciodată? Dar mai ales, buna mea, aș vrea să te întreb, cum e mai bine să treci în viață peste o nedreptate? Urând sau iertând? Pentru că vezi, blânda mea, noi am iertat, dar nu trebuia. Așa am adus din nou războiul la partea noastră. Stând și eu departe de casă, m-am plimbat azi prin Roma, acest oraș darnic și mereu ocupat ca un bătrân. Prin lumina lui scânteietoare, așa cum n-ai mai văzut. Am intrat în librăriile și în bisericile lui, mereu pline, cărți și credință. Câți oameni uciși pentru ele? E mai simplu să ucizi ceea ce nu înțelegi, nu tu să știi asta cel mai bine. Mă gândesc azi la tine, draga mea, din mijlocul acestor ruine splendide, mângâiate și bandajate de localnici, de parcă ar fi niște răni vii. Semn bun, semn că aici oamenii nu-și uită trecutul, nu-l lasă de izbeliște, ci îl dezgroapă și îl îngrijesc, așa cum noi n-am știut să facem cu al nostru. Câtă trudă pentru niște pietre, știu că ai spune acum tu, care ai întâlnit în viață mai multe pietre decât oameni. Sunt 75 de ani de când ai murit prima oară. Oare să mor nu înseamnă și asta? Să fii smuls din rădăcină, să ți se ia totul, să fii aruncat într-un pământ străin care nu te vrea? Omul poate trăi și mort, îmi spuneai, doar când mai este om. Dar ce este omul? Ce ne face pe noi, oameni? Sufletul? Trupul? Conștiința? Câți dintre noi suntem vii doar pe jumătate, dar totuși trăim? Mă întreb asta acum când am aproape aceeași vârstă cu tine, când ai fost deportată, vârstă la care spune lumea, am obținut totul. Nu știu câte adunasei tu la vârsta mea, 2 vaci, o vie, 8 saci cu grâu, asta scria în dosar. Un fleac pentru mine, o cheltuială de câteva luni, dar destul pentru tine ca să fii surghiunită, ca o criminală. Cu cât îmbătrânesc, cu atât amintirea acelei nopți în mintea mea întinerește. Vă văd tot mai clar, iată, 2 țărani timizi, fără prea multă carte sau ambiție, să muncești și să crezi în Dumnezeu. Așa ați fost crescuți, așa ați trăit, asta v-a pierdut. Munca și credința voastră. Poate că noaptea aceea erați fericiți, dar poate că erați doar obosiți. Adunaserăți grâul, tu ai copt pâine cu prima făină, aveai un copil în pântec. Dormeai, dar poate, așa ca mine, nu puteai dormi deloc și te gândeai la ce mai trebuia făcut mâine, peste o lună, la anul. Știi, draga mea, m-am gândit de 1000 de ori la un singur lucru. Când au intrat peste voi soldații, erai fericită? Ai simțit atunci, așa cum simt eu din ce în ce mai des, că puținul care ți-a fost dat a fost destul? Că niciun soldat, niciun tren din lume nu-ți poate lua ceea ce ai trăit deja. Mă gândesc la tine, dar și la cele 10.000 de moldoveni ridicați în aceeași noapte din paturile lor, încărcați în vagoane pentru vite și trimiși în gulag. Dușmani ai poporului v-au numit. Ai cărui popor? Câți au murit cu întrebarea asta pe buze? Câți au supraviețuit și n-au mai primit un răspuns? Nici o dovadă, nici o scuză. Îngropați de vii într-o pagină de istorie prăfuită, reduși la câteva cifre și fotografii îngălbenite. Îți vorbesc azi în limba asta străină, pe care am început să o învăț în casa ta, într-o vară, îți mai amintești. Tu aduceai apă de la fântână, iar eu spuneam aqua. Tu dai grădina, iar eu spuneam giardino, uccello, mella, ragazzo. Iar mai apoi, tot ascultându-te, vorbind singură prin curte, comunista, morte, vendetta. Am învățat atunci multe cuvinte pe care nu trebuia să le răstesc în limba noastră. Cu cine vei vorbi tu în viața asta în limba italiană? Mă întrebai tu obosită și temătoare, cum te-au făcut muncile grele și trădătorii. Uite, draga mea, astăzi vorbesc cu tine. Oameni ai nimănui îmi povestea în copilărie. O iarnă care nu se termină niciodată. Acul, îmi plăceau la nebunie poveștile tale încurcate despre locul acela departe, Siberia, despre oameni buni care au devenit răi peste noapte, din cauza unor liste, despre balaurul roșu care în loc să ardă cu suflarea lui, îngheța totul în jur. Le ascultam cu sufletul la gură, le iubeam și voiam să trăiesc în ele pentru că în ele ai trăit tu. Pe atunci nu înțelegeam de ce uneori în mijlocul unei propoziții îți tremură vocea, iar fața ți se umezește de lacrimi. Credem că asta fac toți povestitorii buni, se prefac triști sau necăjiți ca să fie crezuți. Abia peste ani am înțeles că tu, buna mea, ai fost singura povestitoare care s-a prefăcut ca să nu fie crezută. Pentru asta îți mulțumesc, pentru că mi-ai păstrat poveștile nevinovate. Ai auzit poate că am început să scriu și eu și că scrisul mă poartă în locuri în care nu am crezut că voi ajunge vreodată. Am ajuns departe, mă iubesc străinii. Știu să mă ascund în cuvinte, așa cum mă ascundeam în copilărie în podul casei tale. Să te ascunzi în locurile de care ți este cel mai frică. M-ai învățat atunci și așa fac până acum. Scriu buna mea despre boală și moarte, despre durere și cruzime, despre neiubire și trădare. Mereu despre alții, mereu pentru alții. Tu să știi însă, în toți acești ani am scris o singură poveste, povestea ta. În cărțile mele, tu ești și copil, și pasăre, și grădină, și viață, și moarte. Te-am ascuns în toate fricile mele și acolo, mână în mână, stăm amândouă, așteptând să treacă iarna care nu se termină niciodată. Istoria uită, draga mea, dar să nu te îndoiești nici când de asta. O poveste rămâne în memoria unei familii, chiar dacă este ștearsă din memoria unei țări. Grazie.
Wish I could live there. Wish you were.